It's all about art, all about art, all about art. With David Reed, Tom Galvin, and Joe Moore.
That still amazes me every time I see it.
But
Oh,
not with Joe Moy this week. Unfortunately, our friend Joe is, well, not unfortunately. It's good for him. He and
yeah,
Lori, his lovely wife Lori, are traveling around and having some fun, a little vacation time, vacation weekend. So it's
taking a
David
much.
and I.
Yeah, wonderful. We'll press on. We'll miss you, Joe, but we'll see you next time. So,
And we
Tom,
have,
Tom,
yeah.
we've had a lot of conversation about weird art news, and hey, to our listening audience out there, if you like these special little narratives that Tom puts together every other week about weird things from the arts world, and I'm talking the whole world because he brings in little pieces and ditties from all over. Let us hear from you. Make a comment or shoot us an email or whatever. And then he creates a song from whatever his research team brings to him each time. And what do you got for us this time around, Tom?
Well, David, let me piggyback on what you're saying and say I do have a piece of weird art news. This is called "What Is That Monstrosity?" We're all in favor in our community, David. We're in favor of public art. You and Abby are such promoters and encouragers of artists. You come up with grant funding to paint the utility boxes and to just do wonderful things around the community with public art. But not all public art is lovable. There's some public art that's drawn a few raised eyebrows. So let me give you a few examples, if I may. Uh, Number one, let's start there. The 8 foot tall statue of the polarizing British ex-Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher went on view at the Guildhall Art Gallery in London in 1998. Thatcher did the unveiling herself. That's what I usually do when they're unveiling statues
Right.
of me. I like to fly to Utah, wherever, and
Well,
pull the
it's
curtain off. That's just the thing you
it's
do.
the least you can do, Tom.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think there was no lack of self confidence with Margaret Thatcher. No one expected theater producer, however, Paul Kelleher, to approach the statue and lob Maggie's head off with a cricket bat.
Oh no.
So Kelleher, obviously a political critic, waited patiently for the police to arrive and arrest him and told them, I think it looks better this way. So let's move on to number two. Following number one, French President Jacques Chirac gifted the town of Quebec with a statue called Dialogue with History by Jean Paul Renault. The people of Quebec despised it. One of the disparaging nicknames for the statue was Toilet, because that's something many people thought that the statue resembled a toilet. So Renault hoped for the statue to be installed elsewhere, but bulldozers made sure that didn't happen.
Oh,
They just knocked it down. So Ohad Maromi's installation Sunbather, and yeah, Sunbathers. That's it. That's Sunbather,
wow.
and if we don't have all the colors, that they might see there in Long Island, where it resides on 53rd and I'm sorry, Jackson Street and 43rd in Long Island. These people, they hated it because it looks like just a big fluorescent Gumby. And when the locals found out it cost this thing cost $515,000 of public money
Oh,
for Sunbather. It's a scary looking thing. I, you know, I may not know art, but I know what I hate. Just, so
that doesn't work for
they,
you? Is that what you're saying?
it's not working for me. And like you educated me on the banana art, that there can be
Well,
some of these strange installations that have a backstory and things, but that's just ugly. That's an ugly thing. And the town agreed, 550,000. I work hard for my money, and my tax money paid for this. So they pushed a bill, and I don't know where it's going now. I don't know where the bill's going, but that no public art could be displayed in Long Island without approval from the public. So I don't. That sounds like it might create some boondoggles. But when you see Gumby here. Yeah, at the sunbathe.
I wish it were Gumby. It might be better.
It might. It actually, it looks like it might float up like one of those things you see at used car lots on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Those Gumby things. It looks like it could just do that, unfold and start flying upwards. But let's move on.
Wow.
Anish Kapoor's large twisted metal structure Orbit. That's Orbit right there. In London, in Olympic Park in London, it was completed and introduced, and they had like this first day opening thing. But people in London thought it was still under construction. That this must be like a bridge to somewhere or something. They didn't get it, and when they found out it was a finished work of art, there was a lot. They hated it. They hated it, and they thought it was once again an expensive waste of money. Well, who was the mayor of London at the time? It was,
I know.
Tell him, David.
Boris
Johnson.
Johnson.
Boris Johnson, exactly. Now, here, again, another polarizing figure. You love him or you hate him. But Boris's idea to soothe the public, he attached a slide. You can see the slide that's been added on after.
Well, that was after the piece was created?
After the thing was made. Yeah, he had this monstrosity in his hand. And he said, it's hated by the public. Oh, this looks bad for me. Public money. I know. Let's make a slide now. Families love it. Kids especially love it. And you got to admit, like him or hate him, that's a savvy politician, that Boris Johnson. And then we've got this is not a sculpture but a mural, and this is an insult to
Here we go.
A great musician.
David Bowie. Yeah.
Yeah, this is David Bowie. It's just an unfortunate looking David Bowie. We added here because this botched mural of recently deceased music icon David Bowie was and is thoroughly despised by the people of Sheffield, England, whose BBC outlet installed the ugly image of a pretty darn good-looking guy. He's David. Well, he's not as good looking as he was before he died, but
Right.
I don't know how he looks now, but it's probably not as good as when he was singing. Anyway, the town's consternation, the mural BBC won't take it down. So it's just kind of this hated public work of art that's been our theme. And finally, Scary Lucy. At least that's what the locals,
Whoa.
Here's before and after. Yeah, look at Scary Lucy there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what the locals called it in Celeron, New York, where the city council voted to have a statue of their hometown girl, Lucille Ball, installed in the town square. It turned out to be unimaginably ugly. Lovers of I Love Lucy hated the grotesque way that Lucy was portrayed, and people who lived in the town that could care less about Lucy or I Love Lucy just didn't want to see this eyesore as they were passing through town. So universally despised, and it was replaced by the other Lucy, the more, attractive Lucy in the polka dot house dress, I guess you would call that, and it stopped scaring people, and in fact, it was a good thing that they took the first one down because the artist, the sculptor, Dave Poland, received death threats. Now, that may be extreme, but when I look at the first Lucy, I can understand why you might want to throw some work at a hitman. I don't know. Maybe that's extreme.
How did that ever get past the committee?
I don't. David, think of the public art we do. I mean, if somebody came up with something like, you thought, well, they're going to do a nice mural on a electrical box.
Yeah.
And this is what they do. You have an issue.
There's edgy and thought-provoking, but that's just
there's
unpleasant.
Ugly. Let's not eliminate ugly from our repertoire of evaluations that we place on things. Ugly has usefulness. So
Wow.
Here's a summary song, David. It's called Who Came Up With That and Why Is He Still Alive? What's that thing ahead? What the heck is that? Is that some kind of art? Or one great big toilet? And who carved Lucille Ball? Looks like snakes, not Lucy's head. Laughing funny, lovely Lucy looks like the Walking Dead. That orbit structure's ugly, Londoners all cried. But Boris Johnson turned that thing into a water slide. What a ride. Some hated Margaret Thatcher. Her statue, they all said, would look a whole lot better if we knocked off her head. But if you see a sculpture unpleasant to the eye, don't hit it with a cricket bat. Look away and drive on by.
Oh,
Weird news for this
oh,
week.
Tom, thank you. If you like what you just heard, let us hear from you.
Yeah,
Tom, I love these. I love
yeah,
these. We're gonna get these. Too many people are not enjoying your weird art news moment. So that was all of like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna repackage some of these. Tom's working on curating some of his favorites from the last how long? Year and a half? 2 years?
It's been about 2 years now, David.
Since we started on the radio station, right?
Yeah, I wrote one once a week for a year, and then the pandemic hit, and we went to every 2 weeks. So there's been about we're close to 120 or so, something like that, 130 or something.
That's a lot of material.
Well, it's a fun thing to do, and if people are enjoying it out there, let us know, because I'd like to keep doing it.
Yeah.
As long as it's not hitting a vacuum, and if people
it's so unique. It's such a clever twist, and I know you and your research team worked tirelessly to come up with
the crack team, the crack research team. Yes,
it's impressive. I'm going to call on you next time I need some content or ideas for paper mache.
Yes, please do. Yeah, please do. I do have some ideas for that. But the thing is, my crack research team, I think they're working from home now because I haven't seen them. I've never seen them. I just assume they exist.
They're phoning it in.
Yeah.
Oh.
We have a great guest today. I just met her, and she seems great to me at first blush, first appearance. And I'm going to let you introduce her.
Let me, just by way of introduction, for the past, maybe a year or so, our good friend Marnie Sanders, CEO of the Yuba Sutter Chamber of Commerce, had assembled a team to begin exploring the idea of creating a Yuba Sutter Film Commission. This is something that a lot of communities, counties, cities have, particularly in California, but all over the country. How often do you watch a film and you find out where it was made? It was kind of like that one called Breaking News from Yuba County. When you look up where it was made, it was actually made down in the South, I think, Louisiana, or no, Alabama, I think. States have active film commissions. It's like a marketing department for your community, and our guest is going to elaborate on that idea. But Marnie and the Chamber are really strong on this whole notion. It's another example of looking at art, the art of creating film, as a driver of economic development. That's something we're very keen on as well. So let me shut up and bring on the expert. Allow me to introduce Sabrina Jurisich. Sabrina, you out there?
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sabrina is the Upstate Film Commission Executive Director and also a Shasta County Film Commissioner. And I've met Sabrina over the course of a number of committee meetings with our Yuba Sutter Film Commission Committee. And I thought, gee, what a great opportunity to begin to share some of this idea with a little broader segment of our community. So, Sabrina, how was my introduction? Did I kind of speak in the right terms about marketing a community to film production companies?
You bet. It was spot on, and I totally understand being surprised at times when you have the what would appear to have been filmed in your area, but it was doubled somewhere else. And so the goal, if it's something that's set in Yuba Sutter, would be to actually have it film in Yuba Sutter. So
yeah, that would be nice.
Wouldn't that be?
Or the Yuba Sutter could become the double, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
That
for New
works
York
too.
City or something with our skylines that we have in Marysville and Yuba City. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, the Sutter Buttes over the Empire State Building would be nice.
World's smallest mountain range.
Yeah.
I
So,
love it.
Sabrina, how'd you get into this line of work? What was your, origin story, so to speak?
Well, my background was actually in events and marketing for nonprofits in the community for quite some time. I did a small stint with the Shasta Cascade Wonderland Association, which promotes tourism in 8 counties in the North State, back in 2012. And then the Film Commission was actually started under their umbrella in 2014. And so I was offered the position in December of 2016 and was like, yes. Well, actually, to qualify and be completely transparent, I first said no because I was like, I don't know. Film is like it felt very big, and I didn't directly have experience in the industry, so. Might have seen in a play or two when I was little. That was my experience in that world.
Your
so,
showbiz career right there.
Yeah, that was my show. I was a pig in the Wackadoo Zoo. That was my role.
I saw that. You were so good.
Tail.
Hey,
so good in that.
There are no small parts, only small actors, right? Come on now.
Well, I sang my heart out, if that helps at all. But yeah, so
I read the review in the New York Times. They loved you.
Thank you. So, Did it mention the little pig? Yeah. So, but
they made you an offer you couldn't refuse?
It was kind of like a leap of faith, and I just was like, this sounds really amazing, and I have always had a passion for helping in whatever capacity, helping my community thrive. And I had been working with nonprofits that were dealing, I would say, more from a reactive standpoint in people's lives. And this really stood out to me as something that was a very proactive approach to helping people be able to achieve their dreams and benefit our community on the other side. So both are vital, I think. And but I was ready for a transition, and so I called back like a week later and said, if you haven't filled it yet, I definitely am interested. And so, I'm really glad that I took that leap of faith. We have definitely seen a lot of growth happen here, and I'm just excited for being in consideration to be able to do that in other parts of the northern part of California.
Well, we're very lucky to, I don't know how we found you, or if Marnie scouted you out, or who brought you into our little crew, but it's been great getting to know you on some of the committee calls, and one of these days we'll meet in person, maybe, right?
Yes, soon, I think.
Are you a film person by nature, or?
I would have to say that title goes to my husband. I mean, he could tell you every director and every.
Right,
I enjoy watching it. I do enjoy it. Yes.
Any favorite films, favorite directors? I mean, what's your go-to?
This is where I need to call my husband and be like, "Here,
No.
Well,
I enjoy variety.
Why don't we interview him the next show?
Yes.
And we'll ask him about film. It must have been. So I take it. No, this wasn't your background. Was pursuing film, pursuing fine arts in this way. That you were community involved, and that you were there for maybe disenfranchised people that needed help through charitable organizations, nonprofits, and things like that. That's where your bliss was. And suddenly, you mentioned film, and it's this world of glamour and show business and all this kind of stuff that might be kind of daunting, or that's not me, or that's not part of who I am. Did you feel any of those kinds of feelings when you?
That is for sure the initial reason for my no, because I just thought, and I will say this was a very false belief, but I felt like I would be entering a very superficial realm. And I have found it to be completely the opposite. I mean, people that work in the film industry, they work hard, and they earn whatever level of red carpet they ever get in their life. They earn that. I mean, it's 14, 16, 18-hour days. And, you have to have a whole, I think the beauty in it for me is that there's so many players that come together that have to be able to know their part well, and everybody's essential. And so they come on and work together, and there's this common vision, and hopefully you have someone who's, being able to speak that to everybody, on set well. But to have something come out in the end, I mean, for me, we celebrate with our filmmakers. We have a screening actually next week for a feature-length film that was actually filmed primarily in Shasta County. And so one of the things that we do is bring our community together to actually have that time to be able to see it on the big screen. Because with streaming now and everything, it's not everybody, even if they do something that's, a wonderful film, is going to be able to have that opportunity. There's just so much competition for that. So we love being able to celebrate every step of the way with our filmmakers.
feature-length film. Okay, and I'm not certain about the kind of product or what's being produced. Is it a fiction? Is it a documentary? What
So
kind
the
of
one for
film
next
was it?
week? Yeah,
Yes.
this is a sci-fi thriller.
Oh,
And so they filmed about 90% in Shasta County. They were LA and Chicago based production company. So their director and executive producer are actually coming out to do a little Q&A. It's called The Interpreters, a CNS Chronicle, Quantum One. That's the title of the film. So it's an indie film. Yeah, indie film. And they've won several awards at different film festivals. And, so yeah. And it's, we actually have the opportunity to have a full house because next week, California's opening back up. So
right.
Good. That's
yes, anyone who wants to come.
What's your screening venue? What kind of a space?
We're actually hosting it at the Cinemark in Redding.
So we have a Cinemark here in Yuba City, so I'll keep that in mind for future reference.
Yeah.
How fun.
For the premiere of the cop drama.
The New York Sutter beat.
Yeah,
right.
Cop drama that's filmed on the streets of Yuba Sutter.
Well, they're doing amazing things with CG these days, Tom. So anything's possible. So exciting. So when you came on board, were you now? Did the Upstate Film Commission exist, or does that come after you joining the team, or did you create it?
Yep, that did come after, and yes, I did create it. Partly just because when I first started in this position, we had 6 productions the year before I started. So 2016, that was the number that was reported. In 2017, we had, I believe it was 42. Our chart, we'll have our chart somewhere, so you can correct me. But anyways, it was a striking increase, 28. I don't remember what the number was, but
Alex, can you pull up that?
Yeah, if you have our production history chart, that would be perfect right now. Keep me honest. But
we'll reserve the detail for later. David can give us all the
it went from a very part-time position to a very full-time position. And I actually had 3 different titles of things that I did. And so the Film Commission just slowly took over and, quickly took over. And so in 2019, I started having conversations with my supervisor to say, there's a lot of benefit for the surrounding counties that they're not actually, for one, aware of or participating in. And I think that this would be really good if we could do a regional film commission. And so in about a year ago, in May of 2020, I partnered with a nonprofit down in Tehama County, actually, that also wanted to see a film commission started. And so they are our fiscal sponsor, but that's when that started. Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're actually your fiscal sponsor?
Mm-hmm. They are.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then you created the Upstate Film Commission. Any other counties currently involved, or?
Tehama County and Shasta County are the 2 that are involved. And then I work very closely with Trinity and Siskiyou. And so, yep.
Yuba Sutter would become part of that then?
Correct, yep.
That's the whole idea, the premise, yeah.
So there seems to me to be, there's a couple of things I'm noticing. Seems to be a kind of a generosity of spirit in your county. Let's include others in this. Let's not hog all the scenery or all the sets or all this thing. Do I have that wrong, or is it just good business to expand? Was there any kind
of... it's both. I think it's both. So the board of directors that I've had with the Reading Convention and Visitors Bureau, which was overseen by the Shasta Cascade Wonderland Association, they believe that when everybody benefits, we're going to benefit, and vice versa. And so that has been a mantra since I started with that organization. So yes, definitely generosity exists, and we need each other up here in the North State. Like we all offer different things. Every county. So there's 58 counties in California, and right now 15 of them don't have representation to the film industry.
Oh,
and 9 of those 15 are north of Sacramento. And so that's where, for me, I'm like, we are missing out because those counties don't even have a seat at the table production companies will bypass if they just don't have time to build that infrastructure.
Right.
And so being able to say, we actually have more locations than what you're seeing, and I'm willing to help you. And so I have done that with the blessing of the organization that I worked for, where, they saw that just because, Siskiyou didn't necessarily have like a full-time film commissioner, a lot of times productions don't know where county lines begin and end, right? So they might be filming in Shasta County one day, Siskiyou the next, Tehama the next. We have to just make it as smooth as possible so that their experience is great and they stay as long as they can and come back as often as they can.
And eat and drink and stay in hotels and spend money, right?
That's right. And being able to have that kind of desire to include has actually had a ton of impact with production staying longer. So I don't know how many times I've had a production that's like, all I need to do is come up and shoot Bernie Falls, for example.
Yeah.
And, after I talk to them and work through their script, they end up filming here for, 8 to 14 days longer than they were thinking they were initially coming. So it's done well for our community. And I see that as something that's just going to continue being better.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a multiplier effect with these people coming into town and shopping at the local stores and staying at the local motels or going out to the nighttime venues or whatever it might be. So you're kind of a nice economic, it increases it's a beneficial economic benefit to all the counties that get involved if they can get these people coming in, making films. I had another observation, I guess. You thought about not taking this job, Sabrina. And to me, hearing you talk about it sounds you have found your bliss to some extent, that you seem thoroughly involved and engaged in what you're doing. That the dinner with the crew sounds like fun. It sounds like you're having fun with this. And I'm just wondering if you were surprised is it the good match it seems to be? And were you surprised that when you first had your trepidation and hesitation, have you been justly rewarded for taking the risk?
Incredibly so. So one of the things that was huge, I think, in my coming on and feeling comfortable in the position was we were a member of FLIX, which is the Film Liaisons in California statewide, of which now I'm actually vice president of that organization. And that speaks to just how much I felt embraced by the organization. And the fact that I didn't have industry experience, like I had 41 film commissioners that I could call at any moment and be like, I've never dealt with this before. How would you work through this situation? So it was really, it elevated our ability to be professional and to know exactly what was expected. And I never felt alone in this position. And then on top of that, the productions, when you think about events and marketing, really the experience that I was able to draw from, there's a lot of moving parts that happen when a production comes. And so the skill set was there. It was just kind of learning the industry. And then being able to build relationships. Like, I love people, and this is like the most relationship driven industry I've ever been a part of. So yes, I have definitely found my bliss. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
This job might not have worked well for an introverted, shy, socially phobic person. So you don't seem to have those problems.
No, there's attending trade shows and, these kind of panels and, a lot of face-to-face meetings and walking into production companies and dealing with studio executives. And so, it does push me, I will say.
I don't mean to be shallow, but I am sort of. So what superstars have you met? What any memorable celebrity encounters?
Going to be asking for autographs here in no time.
Yeah. Well, my first introduction, I would say, to a star was on Top Gear. We had Top Gear filming here, and so we had Matt LeBlanc and Chris, and I apologize, I cannot remember his last name.
Hemsworth? Is it Hemsworth?
Chris
Hemsworth? Or Chris, I probably have it.
He was a very nice guy, but so this was my first day on set and my first real big production. They had 60 people on their slowest day. And so that was one of the biggest productions our county had seen. And basically, I was so naive that they called me and they're like, "Hey, do you have the crew and resources we need?" And I'm like, "You bet we do." And so I called the only production company that I really knew well at the time, and I was like, "We can make this happen, right?" And so they graciously, pulled every favor in, and they worked just as hard as I did to make sure that production went off well. But Matt LeBlanc was, he was on set, and I got out there at like 3:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And so you can imagine, people are just real people, and I think that was actually one of those moments for me that I'm like, I'm really just dealing with real people. This isn't, and I've never been one to really get starstruck, but
Chris Harris.
Thank you, Harris.
That's why we like IMDb for our listening audience. If you're a film enthusiast or TV, you need to download the Internet Movie Database app, IMDb, and you'll be glad you did, because it's instant information about anything film and TV. So.
You're showing my weaknesses here.
I use it every day.
I have another question. So somebody presents it, somebody wants to film in Shasta something, and they've got a script where they need a town like Yuba City. Obviously, you're going from a beautiful, we drive through there on the way to Portland. We just did it last week, and I don't want to fly to Portland. I want to drive through Shasta. It's so beautiful. You're paid back for all the energy you expend driving through your area. But then, things happen on city streets in small towns, small rural communities. So if somebody presents a film in this multiple county alliance here, it's like, well, this will work in Siskiyou County. This will work in Yuba City. We need this kind of environment for this shot and things like that. Is that part of what happens here?
Definitely. So they'll contact me and they'll be looking for a variety of locations. And so it's actually, we're beginning to see production levels where we need alternative locations as well, just because, we want to make sure that it's nothing like LA where they have to close down neighborhoods for months at a time because they're just so overused, but we want to keep everybody very happy. Right. So, so having the extra alternatives, in locations, it's quite possible that we don't have what they're looking for. And so having those extra options is going to be a benefit. But even if we do, right now we have an issue with Burney Falls where they are closed off to permitting until the end of August. And so we've had to connect with maybe McLeod Falls, which is in Siskiyou County, which has some similar look, and it's somewhat close by. But we're not going to say no if we have a resource in our region to provide to them.
Why is it closed? Fire or fire hazard or?
Over tourism, believe it or not.
There's too many people. Okay.
Too many people. Yeah. Yeah.
We'd like
and
to
the
have
Rangers
that
are great.
Not
yet.
No, I said we'd like to have that problem here.
Oh,
we've done so far.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Well, if with this conversation about what companies are looking for when they're searching locations, Alex, if we could just pop up the website. This just a few months ago when I got involved in this project, the best introduction for me was to look at the Shasta County Film Office website, and I think we have it to kind of give you all an idea. Here we go. Just for example, it really becomes a catalog of a community is how I describe it. And so you look at this, all of these assets, accommodations, agricultural, auditoriums and theaters, commercial, businesses, cities, towns, public spaces. Y'all can read this as well as I can, but everything, government offices, hospitals, historic buildings, military sites, and just anything, everything about anything in a community. It's just absolutely fascinating. And then you click on any of these particular tabs and you have these great photographs. There's one of my favorite places in Redding, the Sundial Bridge, over the Sacramento River, and that incredible architectural wonder by Santiago Calatrava, and and that's just the beginning. So you want a bridge? We got bridges. Listen, look at it's just amazing. So, and then on your website, did you create the website or develop it, or was it in existence, or?
I did actually. So
Yeah.
when in 2018, we went from having a website that had 15 photos on it
Oh,
to over 250 locations.
Yeah.
And so it's really important because you can't count on the scout calling you if you don't provide something similar.
Yeah.
And so being able to show, I mean, I will tell you that rarely do they go with something that's on the website. But if they see that we have enough diversity, they will call and say, I'm looking for something similar too. And
okay.
so it's been an incredible tool for them just to see, like, wow, they have a lot of options. I wonder if they also have X.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding. And with all that you've covered on the website, there's still something else. Of course, right? We've got 800 options. I want this.
Sabrina, it's a very impressive website. We looked at it a little bit, as you know, before the show. It's very impressive. The drop downs and the detailed information about each of the headings. It's wonderfully done. So
it all kind of gels, and all of a sudden it makes sense. The production company, even if you don't have the picture that they want, you can lead them to that point. But then you've got all those other support services, because you've told us in many cases they want to hire folks locally for some of the the basic positions. Obviously, the leads and what have you have to come with the company, but it's all there if once that website is developed. And as you point out, if they don't see it on the website, just ask and we'll get it for you. And that's part of your job, right?
That's correct. And I will qualify that when I said, like, I was behind the design, but I had a web developer who did that. There's far beyond my capacity to design anything like that. So I don't want to take credit for that. But
right,
conceptually. And we did add local cast and crew and other vendors like catering, makeup artists, hairstylists, those kind of things. So that's been an incredible tool when we have somebody that says, hey, I need, a couple production assistants. They can just go to the website and click away to find.
And that's got to be, when you got talented people locally, that's got to save them a lot of money traveling them, to a location way up here from LA or wherever. And it's just such an incredible support system.
This is going to be so important to us, David, when we do Weird News, the movie.
Yes.
We're going to have to. We'll be in touch with Sabrina when we do that.
I like it. We could do a short film. We're actually hosting a short film festival in October, so we're out there encouraging.
Really? Oh, that's wonderful.
Our local community, and the only caveat, it can be animated, it can be documentary, scripted, whatever, music video, 13 minutes or less. It just the principal photography has to be done in Yuba or Sutter County. So. Other than that, we don't care where you live. Come out, make a movie, and we'll have some fun with it in one of our theaters in October. So, very exciting.
That's wonderful.
Is this growing, Sabrina? Is interest in Northern California? I mean, California in the minds of Midwesterns, and people think glamour of California is in Hollywood or it's south. Is there kind of any upward movement? This is some of the most beautiful country in the world. Some of the most interesting people in the world live in Northern California.
Particularly in Marysville, Tom.
In Marysville. No, seriously, some of these people that are going to these beautiful areas and doing these things have fascinating ideas, creative ideas, and I'm just wondering if you sense, Sabrina, that there's some kind of a increasing interest in the film community looking at Northern California for possibilities, for sets, and for stories or whatever it may be. Is there anything? Am I off track on this, or is?
No, I think you're definitely on point. So California actually has something called the California Tax Credit Program, which was designed to attract productions that were leaving the state. So they called those runaway productions, and to keep production staying here.
Right.
So they help keep like the really big productions in California that are creating lots of jobs. for what the impact has been for that, the program continues through 2025 at this point, and then it'll have to be voted on whether it continues. But it keeps, because of those big productions kind of staying in the zone, and then they also have a bump, a 5% bump if they go out of the zone. So it is causing some extra exploration of California. But then as those larger productions are staying within like San Francisco area and Los Angeles, which are like the zones, then those other productions are being pushed out to explore other locations. And so we've definitely, I think, seen some of the benefit of having that program in California. And then in Shasta County, we actually have a local incentive program, which helps us track those economic analytics. And it encourages hotels to stay within our region. And so they're staying longer, spending more if they're hiring local cast and crew. That's an added benefit. So because they get paid, they're not paid, but they get incentivized to hire our local people versus bringing them up from Southern California or wherever it is that they are. So, but if they are bringing their people up, that means they're staying in our hotels. So it's kind of like a win-win, no matter which way it goes. But we're definitely seeing more interest, and I'll say too that we're seeing more return production. So one example is right before COVID, we had an independent film that was somewhat low budget. The impact from that locally was about $300,000. They are actually in pre-production right now to film their second feature film, and the impact from that's going to be $1.5 million. And then they're planning on one in the spring as well, probably even more than what this production is going to do here. So that's just one example. We have had more return productions than that, but I think treating people well when they come, as well as having the diversity and all the extra options, and knowing that they have a community that really supports them. So there would not have been the success that I've had in this position if we didn't have a community that backed around it. And I see that really happening in Yuba Sutter. I mean, having the people that have been at the table at these meetings that are really behind seeing this type of program come and succeed in the area, that's a winning start already.
So much of what you do is make sure that they're having a really good experience in your area. When these film crews come through, they're going to remember that, boy, they treated us well, the accommodations were good, the food was great. We want to keep them in our Rolodex. That's old terminology, but you know what I mean. Right. Yeah, so it's kind of good old-fashioned customer service, right? Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is that has to have community support for that to occur, for these people to want to come back.
Very much, yeah.
We wanted to talk. You touched on it earlier, but you just mentioned some pretty big numbers there again. You're always hearing about productions like the Yuba County film we talked about earlier, leaving the state. So you are able to make a compelling economic case for producing your film in California. The costs are not so onerous. I mean, there's that whole film community in, Malta, Texas, way out in West Texas, that Tommy Lee Jones, I think, and others have kind of created a little mini film industry. And it's cheaper to do it in Texas because of lower tax rates and what have you. So it's, I guess, incumbent on communities like, and the upstate gathering of film commissions and like-minded counties to come up with those various incentives to make it worth their while to stay in California or come to California to produce a film.
Yeah, and it's not entirely that it has to be incentives. The one thing that I love about our incentive program is the data that we're able to collect, because they send us the backup documentation, and it's always somewhat conservative. I mean, we're getting the big number items like, local crew hires and whether they've rented cars and stayed at the hotel. But oftentimes we don't get all the other things like the gas receipts and, all the trips to Chick-fil-A or whatever. So, so there's other things that they're definitely spending that we're not seeing in those receipts.
Yeah. Gas up those big rigs right here, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, exciting. Can we, Alex, show the economic impact chart that Sabrina had sent over? And just, again, touch on this. This is, I think, a critical issue for our community, convincing leadership of the economic impact of the arts. And I've never seen a more profound example than this. So if we can show that economic impact chart, and if you can talk us through this, Sabrina, to really drive home the notion that, I don't know what the dollar ROI is, but clearly you make a compelling case for what your community has invested in over these last few years. Go ahead.
So this chart shows basically the economic impact from productions that I was able to find tracking for between 2010 and 2020. So the main element here where you start to see that big kind of increase occurred in 2014 when the county designated officially the Film Commission. And what that did was it opened doors to the organizations, like I mentioned before, like FLIX, at AFCI, which is the Association of Film Commissioners International, that gave us lead opportunities to productions that we weren't eligible for because we didn't have that designation. And so the increase was very rapid. I mean, so 2014, I think, is the fourth one over, which is, it's hard to see on the chart, but you go over just a few years, you do see immediately there's like a little climb each year. And then in 2017, as I mentioned, one of the first productions that I was helping with was the Top Gear production. And they had 60 people on that set.
Wow.
It was bigger than any production that we had on record, for the years before that time. And definitely gave a huge boost to our economy. What you don't see on that is that there was equal measure for Trinity County, because they did some filming there, but I don't report for Trinity County.
Okay, this is strictly Shasta. Okay, that's interesting. The overflow or the outflow.
That's right. So there's definitely overflow on all of these. That is that regional benefit. The next year we had a theatrical release, full-length feature film that was filmed entirely in Shasta County and hired 100% of Shasta County people.
Wow.
And so that was Bright Ones. It was an independent film, but it did have a very small, short theatrical release. And so where you see the uptick for that year was because, that was the first time in our history, I think, that we had like a full-length film that had a theatrical release that filmed primarily in Shasta County.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it was very exciting. And then the next one was definitely a sharp rise from 2017, but we didn't have a full-length feature film filming here. So we had more productions that were spending more money, but didn't quite measure up to the year before. And then obviously 2020, we had COVID hit. But what I'll say about that is when we get to the production number chart, we had our second highest year for number of productions in 2020, despite COVID. So it's a strong industry. It knows how to survive, and it knows how to pivot when things need pivoting, and it does keep people safe in the process. I mean, so they were able to maintain as an essential industry throughout COVID, but we were down about 6 months. So that's where you see that drop.
Sure. Well, still pretty compelling numbers. And it doesn't have to be a full-length feature, right? I mean, we're talking other smaller productions, commercial shoots, those kinds of things, right? It's not all, the biggest film of the year in town to make. No.
We often have commercials filming here. So we've had Ford and Subaru. We've had like House Hunters, so different reality TV. House Hunters is filmed here. We had Homestead Rescue film here. A lot of different Discovery programs.
Alex, can you pop up that other slide, please?
Just want to say Alex is our engineer.
Alex is behind the scenes, live from New Orleans. If you've got that other slide, there we go. Great, take it away, Sabrina.
So this chart shows the documented productions, and a lot of them I was able to find off of IMDb, like David mentioned earlier, because I really wanted to get a solid picture of what has actually filmed in our county. It's been a labor of love to make sure that we're reporting correctly. So there's occasions where the numbers will go up 1 or 2 from the year before because somebody reported something 6 years later. So, but I want to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. And obviously, we don't add economic impact numbers, even if we're adding the production, because we don't know how many days they were here, what size their production was. But if we know that there was a production, in fact, they are reflected on this chart. And so what you see where the little white arrow pointing down is, that's when there was an official film commission designation. And again, you'll see, and I'll correct my earlier statement, the numbers, it went from 14 to 28. I do know that there were 6 productions in the film office that were managed that year. So it was very small number of productions that came through the film office. And then the uptick the next year where those were what we were managing.
Yeah. Well, it's a great metric, another great metric to look at and help to chart that kind of growth.
Yeah.
Incredible, just incredible.
It's been very exciting.
Well, we're just so pleased to have you as part of the team. We're out in the process of fundraising, putting on my nonprofit hat, but we're going to generate revenue to support this amazing cause. And I know you and Marnie have plans to present to Yuba City Council, and we'll have to get some dates in front of. We've got 4 incorporated cities and 2 counties here, and we'll get Yuba Sutter, and then we'll move on to Colusa and Nevada County and Butte County. And I sound like, who was that guy that ran for president? I forget his name. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. I digress. I
don't, but
you do,
because I forget his name.
I'll send you a note.
It's so wonderful to feel your enthusiasm, to see a mover and shaker that got so many things done and accomplished in your area where you live. And if we can get a little bit of that enthusiasm generated in our area, we will be indebted to you for starting this thing up and getting so much energy around the film industry coming to Northern California. We've loved having you as our guest, as you've really been informational and fun to have on, and we hope you've had a good time being with us.
I definitely have. Thank you so much.
Yeah, your experience and wisdom are priceless. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you at the next committee meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Well, that was a delightful experience.
I never thought about a film commission, and the need for one to help promote the community.
She's she's up tempo.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody like Sabrina is going to create change somehow, do something, and I'm just really happy it was film that she landed, where she found herself
she's
doing this wonderful work.
And that's a great story, isn't it? Yeah, coming out of that marketing background and to be doing this work. And she's just been so generous with her time and experience. So
that interview went a little longer than normal.
It did.
It was a great interview.
Oh.
But I'm guessing you have some things to share with us about.
Yeah, we've got a few highlights coming up. First, just in terms of time sensitivity, you've got 2 more days to look at our online Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture art auction. Just go to YubaSutterArts.org and click on the art auction link. Look at some incredible art and bid or buy if you're able to do so. If not, just enjoy a kind of a virtual art gallery. So that's there for your viewing enjoyment. We've got a casting call out for our Applause Kids. Broadway Here We Come is the next virtual show we're doing for youth musical. This is our program, Applause Kids, performing arts for 7 to 14-year-olds under the direction of Alex Mazerol. A lot of you know Alex. We produced 2.
Buddy Alex, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. We produced 2 youth musicals last year, and this is the last, probably the last virtual production for a while, but when we started planning, we weren't sure what to expect. But the casting call, send in a 3-minute video. You've got until June 28th. I want to make sure I get the deadline right. Just shoot us over a video of yourself, your young person performing. If you have any questions, get a hold of us at YubaSutterArts 742-2787. Or check out the website again, YubaSutterArts.org. Hey, we've got a special show this week, Thursday, June 17th. And Joe Moy, Joe's not with us to talk about it, but We have video recorded Joe Moy performing his catalog of 7 COVID-inspired songs. They're all related to some aspect of COVID. This is upbeat, kind of healthy behavior stuff. It's kind of the sideshow Joe side of what Joe does in terms of performance. So the show's called A Virus Among Us. It's a children's music show. It stars Joe Moy and some friends from the Creative Flow Institute. Some of their young performers came over to kind of be background for Joe and interact with him while he performed these songs. We've also cut in a few clips from the Adventist Ride Out Healthy Kids performing group, who normally goes around to schools, again with high energy songs and performances, teaching young people healthy behavior. So that melded together. This whole thing is sponsored by the Sutter County Children and Families Commission. Our friend Michelle Blake came to us a few months ago and said, "Hey, Joe's got these songs. Can we put something together?" We said, absolutely. We did. This Thursday, 6 p.m., June 17th, 6 p.m., free show. Just go to log on to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, and it'll be there for you to watch afterwards, too, if that's not a convenient time for you. So look for that.
Hats off to our buddy Joe. Hats
Absolutely.
off to him. He's a local treasure.
You can't keep these incredible musician songwriters down, right, Tom? You just keep producing through the pandemic and everything else. Lots of poetry coming up. Marcelo Hernandez Castillo. Look for his poetry hour and notes from the field. All of this is listed on our website. There's so much. Tom, you've already done open mic for the month. Real Book Society, led by Shantae Arroyo. If you're interested in film and the books that they were created from, then check out Real Book Society. Diane Funston has Poetry Square coming on June 17th. That's after Joe's show, so it can be a big night for you at Yuba Sutter Arts. Diane Funston's our poet in residence, and she brings in poets from all over the country to share an hour telling stories and reading poems. So lots of fun. Tom, you've got virtual solo sessions coming up. Have you got a guest? You're working on it? Yeah?
Maybe. I had a few glitches come up in terms of the guests that I had scheduled.
That's all right.
I have a backup plan.
All right.
Which would be that I would do the show again, but I would not do any of my own songs. One of the things I wanted to concentrate on with Spotlight on Songwriters was songwriters that inspired other songwriters. Oftentimes not the big timers, not the Dylans and the Paul Simons, but some of the people that less light is shown on their careers, but have influenced a lot of us. Some lesser known people, and they won't be lesser known to a lot of people out there. A lot of my compatriots that play guitar and play music, but people like Townes Van Zandt or Guy Clark or Jesse Winchester, people who have just created beautiful, beautiful music in song. And so if that would be a show I would do, I don't want to do all these shows myself. I've already done one with Gay. Because a guest canceled at the last minute, but I'm thinking this could be something I could do that could introduce people to some really fine musicians. So that might be the tenor of the show, either now or at another time down the road.
Great.
And so if I don't have a guest lined up in 2 weeks, that'll be what it is. But if I do, it may be that I can find some other guests that have their favorite singer-songwriters and they'd like to have a show with some of their music and some of the people that have inspired them. So,
anybody out there listening, if you want to get in touch with Tom, call us at the Arts Council and we'll hook you up. But that's it'll be a great show no matter what. June 26th, 1 p.m. And then I should point out the big event of the month, if you will, later this month. This is our 40th anniversary. We were founded in 1981. We, the Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture Council. And as many of you may know, Yuba Sutter Arts is about to take on the Sutter Theater. We're actually calling it the Sutter Theater Center for the Arts on Plymouth Street in Yuba City. Our two organizations have come together, and we've agreed to take on the management and programming for that wonderful new performance venue. The big black box theater is done. We had a private event there last night. The lobby, wait till you see it. It's spectacular. But we're having a big open house, celebrate the keys. We're going to have the key ceremony where the Sutter Performing Arts Association gives us the keys to the theater as they hand off ownership. And we'll be there. Lots of local dignitaries. Both of our boards of directors will be on hand. But more importantly, we'll have a great open house experience. Tom, Gay Galvin, Tom's wife, will be playing live music. Lots of refreshments, and you get the full tour of the place. If you haven't seen it, you'll see what's been done, and you also see the challenge we face with developing the back half of the theater, and that'll be the purpose of our next big fundraising campaign for the Sutter Theater Center for the Arts. So come out on June 25th, 5 to 7 p.m. If you haven't seen this postcard, it's around town. It's on our website. Come out and celebrate the Keys with us. Big news. So we'll wind up with another art gallery and 2 theaters, and we got to do is fill it with music and theater and dance and everything else. So
what an exciting time. Yeah, this is great. I think also, aren't there a couple more performances of the acting company's production?
Well, they're struggling. They're having some technical difficulties. I'm sorry not to mention that. Those of you, I think, that already purchased tickets probably have gotten a notice. I'm waiting for them to let us know that they're live again, and they're going to be able to put the shows on next weekend. They couldn't do it this weekend for some technical reasons.
And we were going to watch last night, and we got held up we were late getting back to our house from an event, and we missed it, and now I'm glad we did. We'll check it out next week.
I'm sure you'll be getting an email, Tom. So again, I haven't gotten an update, so we're watching, and we'll announce that.
But they always good productions from the acting company.
Should be fun. And then we'll be back here on June 27th. Will be our next All About the Arts, and you'll be away, Tom, but Joe will be back.
Yes, Joe will be back. I'll be up in the foothills watching my wife play jazz, which she has not had a lot of chance to do during the pandemic, but she's going to be tickling the ivies up in the mountains, and so I'll be there. And Fantastic. I'll be back in a month with another weird news, and we'll talk about maybe we can come get a weird news thing and just put it out there independently and see. I think we got a kind of an interesting thing going, occasionally a funny thing. It's a lighthearted thing, and so if you're interested in finding out what that's about, we'll present something that will be accessible, and maybe we can generate a little bit more interest in this crazy thing I do, but I do it because I love to do it, and I think it's funny. So
we love it too, so we're going to keep it going.
All right.
All right. And June 27th, when we're back, we'll be talking more about the Sutter Theater right after our big Celebrate the Keys event. Joe's been on the board over there and working like crazy on it for years, so we'll have a great conversation about the Sutter Theater.
All right.
All right, Tom.
That's it.
Great to see you.
You too, David.
See you soon.